The world over, entrepreneurship is seen as a gateway to job creation and ultimately economic growth. This is what Dean Graham, an entrepreneur and speaker who preaches across the world. He speaks about his business trials and tribulations, growing multiple companies and losing it all and building it up again. Dean started his first business at 19, his second at 25, and by 26, he had made his first million. Earlier in the week, I sat down with Dean on SME On Point to share his knowledge and how youth can emulate his success. He begins by explaining why he chose entrepreneurship.
It started at a young age where, from my father always owning his own company and learning about working for bosses. And the day that I realized, at a very young age, I realized that you only get a portion of your money. So,
okay.
And you're looking and you're going, you're getting that much and everyone else is taking that much. And I started asking the questions going, what does it take to take that much instead of that much? And the journey started with reading books and just picking up a book, reading it and implementing day by day, every single thing, something new every day.
Yeah. Speaking has now become part of your career. Do you think that people still take people who are on stage like yourself and listen to them and go home and start researching about whatever topic? Is it as glamorous as it looks? And is it as inspiring as it is? How many more entrepreneurs can be birthed through speaking engagements such as yours?
It's a fantastic thing when you go to a conference and you've got a speaker that's done it before and you see that what you've been missing, unfortunately most conferences you go to that are free, they'll provide you with 20% of the information. Okay. The other 80% they want you to pay for. Okay. So, when we lie on that entrepreneur level is going, you've got to do a lot of the work yourself. You've got to go home. Yes, people do it. But what happens is when you leave a conference, you leave excited with 80% of what they said. Mm-hmm. Within 24 hours, you remember 60%. Within 48 hours, you remember 20%.
Right.
So by Friday to Monday, that drive's gone. So out of everyone, you'll maybe see out of our room of 100 people, maybe 2 of them will excel and move forward with that. That's the only sad thing, is because the motivation, the drive is not there.
How do we change it? Does one have to now follow the speaker rigorously to make sure that you keep on remembering everything that Dean said?
Anyone can teach you whatever they want. You can listen to whoever you want to speak to. Doesn't matter. Bottom line is discipline. Everyone says it's what do you call it? Motivation. It's not. It's discipline. Discipline is what takes you to the next level. Waking up in the morning at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock, having a routine, doing it every single day, on Paul, getting home at 8 o'clock in the evening, reading for that extra half an hour, knowing what you're doing and having time and discipline to do it, that is the difference. I even at times falter with discipline. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot out to get back into it. But after a while, it just becomes habit.
Right. So unemployment is a problem worldwide, especially with developing economies like South Africa. I mean, we're looking at more than 34% of unemployment. And just earlier, the IMF had revised economic growth outlook for the world from 4.3 to 3.2. And now, what kind of role can entrepreneurship play to plug this gap?
Entrepreneurship needs to be put in the border level in the masses, numbers, right? So, South Africa is a good example. We have a kingmaker system. So one person will win R1 billion tender. Why are we not changing a system to 1,000 people winning R1 million tenders? Okay. Do you understand? So that the money is more evenly distributed, more opportunities for entrepreneurs. I mean, when you talk about global, we've all been smashed by the current COVID crisis, among other things. South Africa's got its other problems with regards to natural disasters and everything else. So what needs to happen is, from a South African point of view of growth, is we need to start looking at how to create entrepreneurs and stop making kingmakers and start distributing the money more evenly amongst the masses.
How do we make entrepreneurs in South Africa in an economy that is hardly growing and people are hungry? And most of the people, when they start about the entrepreneurship journey, very few of them think about succession and actually building empires, but it's more, call it economics of the stomach at that time, from hand to mouth. I get this tender, I get this money, I'm able to buy groceries. How do we change this mindset against the reality of what the country is dealing with?
You've got to, when I look at it this way, government can only do so much, right? But what they're not doing is business education. Mm-hmm. We live in a country where jobs are not there, they're not available. So you've got to get entrepreneurs going. And government needs to start focusing on creating entrepreneur training. There's hundreds of business coaches in this country. Mm. I mean, when I speak inside a township or inside a school, a small school like Cosmo City, I had 2 people come up to me in Cosmo City and they had brilliant ideas, 17 and 8 years respectively. They didn't know how to raise finance or crowdfunding, and they didn't know where to go and take their idea to the next level. And they were R1 million ideas. Mm. And they just didn't have that education. It's those small things of giving it to those outlying communities. There's people in the outlying communities that can produce, they just don't know how to take it to market. Yeah. Because they haven't been taught that simple way of bringing it into the market.
So we can start it from school level to help with entrepreneurship, education, and business.
It should be ingrained. We should focus more on entrepreneurship than anything else in South Africa right now.
There's this glowing picture about entrepreneurship, okay? When someone says, I'm a business, I've got multiple businesses like Dean, and one thinks, oh, he's boxed up, he's got money. But do we often talk about the truth of entrepreneurship and the hurdles that entrepreneurs go through? Take us through your biggest blunders, how you overcame them, and how people can start identifying if they're headed for trouble and what they can do to kind of deal with it and counter it.
Entrepreneurship looks glamorous. Let me tell you, it's not, right? You don't work 8 to 5, you work 24/7. And what happens, the biggest trial that I had is learning experience. It's school fees that you're going to have to pay unless you've got someone who's a mentor, someone who can guide you and help you avoid those costly situations. I made a very bad decision where I invested a couple of $100,000. So I built up and invested a couple of $100,000. And with entrepreneurship and that amount of money, when it starts going up, you start buying the nice car and the house, and all of a sudden you start accumulating debt. Right. And when times are bad, that debt comes to you, and the debt collectors come with like wolves for you, right? They come fast and furious. And it's that debt that can set you back. So the biggest thing I would give anyone and say to entrepreneurship is start humbly, and as your profits grow your assets rather than your debt. And the biggest decision people need to make in entrepreneurship is be disciplined and don't give up. If you're that person who can't finish something, don't start entrepreneurship. You've got to be able to go the mile. There's going to be days where you don't have money. There's going to be days when there's stress. There's going to be months when that stuff happens. If I turn around and I tell you it took me 2 years with other emotional things that happened to me, and it took me 2 years to get over that stuff, right? But every day I just carried on going. It was easy to go taking back at a job. But then a job is just overbroke once again. Yeah.
I love that you talk a lot about discipline, and this is what I'm carrying with me after this conversation about an emphasis on discipline. Before I let you go, so we are heading to the weekend, or this weekend we will be heading, the ANC will be looking at its policy conference. That will, help them to develop policy, if they stay in power. What do you think they should be looking into when it comes to developing policy for the SME sector, which, by the way, in some of their past papers, like the National Development Plan, they had envisaged that, SMEs will create about 90% of jobs. Obviously, that is not going to happen because so far they've created about only 28%. What should they be looking at when they formulate or discuss or even debate this policy that has to do with SMEs?
Making the fastest growing sectors in South Africa's education more available and free via SETA, like in the solar industry right now. It's booming, right? Yeah. But SETA's taking its time in trying to approve SETA education. Now, if they made that easy accessible, they could create thousands of jobs right now. If I tell you there's backlogs and backlogs, to create thousands of jobs. You can identify another industry that's growing. Agriculture. There's now massive growth within the hemp going out in KwaZulu-Natal side. It's the access to licenses, firstly, that they need to start streamlining. I mean, Ramaphosa did a great thing by opening up what he's done now with the electricity crisis. But it just needs to be, I think it needs to be done a little bit better on what he's done. But those are job opportunities. I mean, a country that has problems like ours, we shouldn't have a job problem. So what he needs to do is he needs to start, the policies that he needs to look in is focusing on education to the people that can get into the job stream, but also the opportunity for those people to create their own business as an entrepreneur and stop making a kingmaker, that you can start giving out more business to people to fulfill that obligation.